Good evening, friends. I welcome you all in this session. And here today we'll focus on uh, the last 20 days, 30 days. You send me a lot of questions, and most of the questions are connected with influenza, flu, and your experience with the patient. The NICE expert, you became a NICE expert, that is Network of Influenza Care Expert. And in last 20 days, we are able to handle and treat and cure as many as 5,000 patients. And by now, you already know that each of the patients are a complete story in itself. So more you interact, more you treat and be with the patient, more you learn. Every patient will have their own stories, and that will give a new insight about not just the flu or the disease, but the new insight about the human body, and that will enrich your experience. So based on what you have learned in last 20 days, especially while dealing with the corona patient, the COVID-19 patient, or flu patient, or influenza patient, and based on what you have learned and based on what you inquired, I have made this module uh, uh, about few minutes back. We just finished with the Hindi module, and now it is the English session, the same content but only in English, so that you are able to understand with all the comfort. So here, let's start. The most important thing while managing a flu, influenza, is managing the following symptoms, as you can see on the screen. And the patient, they will complain for breathing. They are not able to breathe. They are coughing a lot. Some patient is having high fever. Some patient may vomit or nausea or weakness. These are the things. That's why they are sick, right? So, but here they may panic. After all, they are patient, and that's why we should remind them that they have to have a lot of patience. That's why their name is patient. But here we have to be calm, we have to be cool. And here the most important thing is we have to ask them only two things. Out of these six, only two things are important. When you start with the patient, you have to ask what is the temperature. Don't ask whether you're feverish or not, just tell the temperature. And as long as the temperature is less than 102, it's absolutely okay. And then you ask what is their SpO2, that is SpO2, that is oxygen level, using oximeter. And if the answer is more than 88%, then it is comfortable. Only we need to manage if any of these numbers are away from it. So let's take step by step. The first important thing is breathing. Out of all the difficulty which is the most important to handle, the first thing to handle, which should be the priority for you to handle, that is the breathing. You have to manage the breathing. How to manage the breathing, that I'm going to tell you. But before that, I would like to tell you one thing, that how to get maximum out of this session, and that is when you place yourself as a judge. So here always I give one example, that imagine a film star, Sanjay Dutt, when he came in front of the judge. So there are people like the media or his fans or his movies, they are all saying Sanjay Dutt is a good man, he is a Munna Bhai, he helps the needy people. So the media is saying he is an honest man, so they are praising. Some glamour is there and a lot of praise are there, a lot of good things. But on the other hand, the evidences were showing that he has done something wrong. As a judge, what is important, what most of the people are saying, what is looking more glamorous, or what the evidence are saying. So here the important thing is, for a judge, it is not important that how many people are saying what. Important is what is the evidence. Same is true here today also. Whatever I'm going to show, you believe, not the thing which is more glamorous, not the thing which looks more bigger, not the thing which looks more promising. Believe not the thing which more people are adopting or more people are prescribing, more people are going for. The most important thing is what are the things which are having evidence. The most important thing is evidence, and should be evidence. And if you go by evidence, you cannot be wrong. So now to start with, we'll start with the breathing management. And when we think of breathing management, this means he is finding difficulty in breathing. Then what is happening? What we think of? We think of in hospital setup, it is the oxygen, right? Any patient with breathing difficulty, the first thing they do, they put an oxygen, right? And even after oxygen, the breathing difficulty does not go, then the next stage is mechanical ventilator. So first, let me talk of the oxygen cylinder. Very clear, one sentence, that oxygen cylinder or oxygen therapy is the worst or it is a fraud in the medical industry. The worst fraud in the medical industry. It is the worst fraud in the medical industry. Why? Because your body is not designed to take oxygen. Your body is designed to inhale air. Air. Air is having only 21% oxygen and rest is something else, nitrogen, most of it, and then some other gases also. So your body is not designed to take oxygen. Your body is designed to take air. That is one thing which you have to keep in mind. For example, you have a car, petrol car or diesel car, but instead of petrol or diesel, if I put inside the car more purified and more expensive fuel, that is the jet fuel, what do you think the car will run? No, your car is designed for petrol. So even if you put the superior kind of fuel, it is not going to work, right? It will damage the engine. Suppose you are having a diesel car and I say I'll put a more expensive fuel, the petrol. You will say no, thank you. Right? So similarly, your body is not designed to inhale oxygen for a long time or even for a few minutes. That is going to damage. So very thought that oxygen therapy can help a person to increase the to reduce the mortality, to reduce the morbidity. This is a false statement. In last many decades, since the time oxygen therapy is here in this world, there had not been even a single evidence which shows oxygen therapy can increase the life expectancy. Oxygen therapy can help saving a person's life. Yes, when you do the oxygen therapy, person may get initial comfort. Person may get initial comfort. So to get comfort for a few minutes, oxygen therapy is okay. But if you think that it is going to help you increase your lifespan, it is going to help you to reduce the morbidity, it is going to help you to cure the disease, these things do not happen. There is no evidence of it. I'm going to show you the evidence, only then you'll believe. And evidence is here, the Cochrane systematic review. Among all the kind of evidence, one evidence which I trust the most, and I have named it several times in my various lectures, that is Cochrane. Cochrane is an organization who do not take the donation from the pharmaceutical company. And Cochrane, they did a meta-analysis. Meta-analysis is the highest of all kind of analysis. Randomized control trial, and then comes meta-analysis. And according to Cochrane, two group of people, one given the higher concentration oxygen and other given the lower concentration oxygen. The people who are getting lower concentration, people, they get a lesser harm. The people who receive more oxygen, more harm. More oxygen, more harm. So out of the two, more oxygen or less oxygen, lesser oxygen is better than more oxygen. And here is the evidence in front of you. And if you ask the question of oxygen and no oxygen, then what is the, which is better? The clear is no oxygen is better than some oxygen. I'll give you evidence here, coming back to the previous slide, and that is the in hospital, it is the oxygen cylinder which can give the patient some comfort initially, but the same thing you can achieve with at home with a handheld fan. And the trick is very simple. It is a handheld fan, which is nothing new, and everybody is having handheld fan in their house, right? So many of you. So you have to just put the fan in front of the nose of the patient. Patient will hold the fan like this, and he will switch on the fan, and the air. The fan will throw the air in the nose, and if the patient can hold like this for about 5 minutes with the fan switch on, then he will get the same kind of comfort which otherwise he would have got by the oxygen therapy, but without the side effect of oxygen, which causes oxygen toxicity in the body. So this handheld fan can do not same but better than the oxygen therapy. So at home, you can do this and it will give the same comfort without getting the disadvantage or the side effect of oxygen. And all kind of evidences are there for you. Let me show you the evidence. Oxygen versus room air in breathlessness. Here it is 2010 Lancet. Among all kind of journal, Lancet is known to be the top 5 journal, and if anything is published in Lancet and that too a randomized control trial, it is seen as a highly regarded research paper. And this is a highly regarded research paper. It is a double-blinded randomized control trial, and here they compared two group of people who were suffering from breathlessness of the similar kind of intensity, and one group was given oxygen, the other group was given like a fan like this, and they are asked to hold the fan about 6 inches near to them and let them breathe through the air of the fan. And both the group got the same kind of comfort after 5 minutes of these therapy. So clearly it is established that this fan can do the same job as the oxygen cylinder. This fan is just 200 rupees. An oxygen cylinder normally we do not have at home. For that we are dependent on in hospital. Surely the hospital authority will never tell you this fan is not same, it is better than the oxygen cylinder, because then who will go to the hospital? So for you, 95% of the patient, those who will complain breathlessness, if you ask the patient to hold the fan and then sit with the fan like this, I'll show you how to hold the fan and how to sit. And this is the posture. This means the patient must lean little forward like this, and then hold the fan about 6 inch, and then he can switch on the fan and inhale the air from the fan. And this if he can do for 5 minutes, he will get the same comfort which otherwise he would have got by the oxygen therapy. But here there is no upper limit. If he want, he can keep it like this for some more minutes, or even 1 hour or 2 hours, or whenever and he want to feel good about it. So this is a very important therapy, and it is widely written in the medical journals, but it is never shared with the common public, because once you share it with the common public, they will know that they never need oxygen cylinder. Nobody on earth need oxygen cylinder. This tool can do much better than this. So by doing this, you will solve 95% of your patient's problem. If 100 patients come with the breathlessness problem, 95 people will get solved with this. Now there are 5% people, they will not get relief even after holding it for about say half an hour or 1 hour, and they are the patient, they may have a real breathlessness issue. At this point of time, you have to tell them that, okay, you're feeling breathless, I want to see what is your SpO2 level, what is your oxygen saturation level in your blood. For that, they have to use the oximeter, and oximeter reading, you don't ask, you have to see, right? You tell them that through WhatsApp video call, you show me your oxygen oximeter, and from oximeter you will read. And if the oximeter reading is showing less than or equal to 88%, this means now it is a real problem. And with breathlessness, uncontrolled breathlessness, even with the oxygen cylinder or this fan, plus a reading less than 88% is a real emergency situation. And in hospital setup, they go for this mechanical ventilator. So what is mechanical ventilator and what is the alternate for us? And that I'm going to tell you. I told you last time that we have an alternate which we can do at home, which is not giving same result as mechanical ventilator, but it is giving far good better result than mechanical ventilator. So first let me compare. So and here the condition is that SpO2 should be less than 88%. That is the reading in oximeter. There are something called SaO2. There is something called PaO2. These kind of terms some patient will tell you, right? And many times the patient family member, some of them are medical personnel, or some of them are doctors, and they want to show that they know so much, and they may confuse you with many medical terms. But here you should not engage with those medical terms with the family member. You will say that I will go by the nice protocol which is taught to me, and I just want you to show me the oximeter, the reading. You need not to say that I want to see SpO2 reading or oxygen saturation reading, what is the level of oxygen. No, you just say put the oximeter and show me in the screen. That's all. So never indulge in some educative kind of communication with the patient or patient's family member. Always focus on what they need to do at that moment. And that is something very important, and that is something which is going to cure him, and that is something which he or his family members or even his known doctor, who may be very learned person, the chances are he may not be knowing about it. And that is something which you know. I have seen several patients, they got immediate benefit with this, and there may be 5% patients who do not get benefit from with this, and they are the patients who are fit for prone ventilation. And in last 20 days also, some of you, they have they got their patient with less than 88% oxygen saturation, and they asked the patient to be on prone ventilation posture, and within 5 minutes, as you have told our team, that the patient got benefited. How to know the patient got benefited? The oximeter will be fixed to the finger, and you can check after 5 minutes, 10 minutes, after half an hour, and most likely after half an hour, the oxygen saturation will go more than 90. That means the patient has recovered, and a patient will also say that now I am feeling more comfortable. So, but before I tell you what is prone ventilation, although I explained in last lecture, this time I'll go in a little more detail. Let me first tell you why not to go for mechanical ventilator, right? So that is something more important for you to know. So here you see this called what is mechanical ventilator, which seems to be something very used, something very scientific, something very promising, something very glamorous in a way that it is something expensive, not everybody can afford, and this is a status symbol of a hospital. And people, they have a perception that is something as modern as this. This means the person surely, and they have the more capacity, that hospital is having more possibility of saving a person. But that is what is glamour, right? Please remember that example of Sanjay Dutt, right? Important is not what is seen, how big glamorous it is looking. Important is what is the evidence. Now here you see the other picture. What a ventilator means? Ventilator simply means that some pipe from nose and mouth goes in the stomach, and a pipe goes in the lungs. And this time the feeding, the food goes through the pipe through the nose, and the air goes to the lungs through the mouth. This means the person is totally dependent on the pipes, as you can see on the screen. So when there are too many pipe goes in the body, it causes many new illness. What are the new illness? You must know, so that you know the disadvantage of mechanical ventilator. So I must tell you, because of those illness, 9 out of 10 COVID patients, they never come out of the ventilator. It is seen if 10 patients are put on the ventilator, 9 patients is going to die, and the 10th one may come out. It is not because of the ventilator they are coming out. It is in spite of being in the ventilator, still they come out. So they may be lucky, or they may be extremely unlucky. Why extremely unlucky? Because that the staying in the ventilator is very, 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 very painful. Number one. Number two, what happens? People who are on ventilator, 9 out of 10, that 90% of them die, and the remaining, those who are alive, many of them, they die within the first 2-3 months, half of them, and the half remaining, they remain almost paralyzed for the time, till the time they are alive. And why it is so, that I'll show you in my next slide. And the cause is these. Once in a ventilator, they get these new disease. One of the disease, it is called ventilator associated lung injury. What is this? It means that through the ventilator, the oxygen is forced on the lungs at a particular speed, and our body is not designed to take oxygen, and our body is not designed to take the stream of oxygen at any speed, and that immediately causes the damage to the lungs, which was already compromised at the very first place. And second important thing, it causes oxygen toxicity. I already told you that our body is not designed to take a pure oxygen, but through ventilator, the kind of oxygen is given, it is almost a pure form, sometimes 90%, 98% oxygen, right? So never it is 21%, never it is the air which is thrown inside the body, it is the oxygen. And once oxygen is thrown at that speed, it causes oxygen toxicity, and together it causes what is called neuro damage. What is neuro damage? You see, your brain and your lungs, both are in tune with each other, both work in harmony. And now, since the ventilator has taken over your body to feed the lungs, in this case, it gets disconnected with the brain and dissociated with the brain. And this means that person has lost all his memory, even all his skill. Simple skill like how to brush, or how to eat food, how to hold the glass. These things are not there in the mind. This means he has to relearn all these things. He becomes like a small child who has just born a day before. He do not know even a simple skills of the life, but over a period of some year he get to learn. But same condition happens with a person who is in the ventilator, and that is called neuro damage. And then in extreme cases, which happens quite frequently now, especially in the COVID cases, and that is called VAP, ventilator associated pneumonia. Try to understand, when there are a number of pipes going through the mouth and nose to the stomach and to the lungs, what happens? All kind of virus and bacteria, they travel through the pipe, and it goes and it occupies the inner part of the lungs, and that is called ventilator associated pneumonia. And finally, when the person dies, in reality he is dying of ventilator associated pneumonia, and he is not dying of COVID, but here it is categorized as a COVID death. So these are things a person is destined to get once he is in mechanical ventilator. But here, if the person is not able to breathe, if his oxygen saturation is less than 88%, it means that his lungs is not working to full capacity. If you can do something so that his lungs starts working in full capacity, then in one day he can be out of danger. In one day his breathing can come back. How to do that? That is what is called prone ventilation. So here, before I go to prone ventilation, I want you to look at this slide, and this slide says role of bacteria as a cause of death in pandemic influenza. In this world, it is not that first time the influenza has come. H1N1, that is also influenza. It came in 2009, and then there are rhinoviruses, and there are many other kind of coronaviruses which have been coming to us since last 5 decades. So it is seen whenever the person is sick of any kind of virus, any kind of influenza, and finally when he dies. And it is seen that especially in case of ventilator, and especially those who are on medication and then they die, it is not that the virus which caused the pneumonia, it is the bacteria which caused the pneumonia. What I mean to say is that if the virus stays in the body for longer period, it makes a way for the bacteria, and especially through ventilator, it is called VAP, ventilator associated pneumonia. It is seen that bacteria travel all the way through the pipe to the lungs, and it occupies the lungs, and in the lungs there are small sacs. There are small microscopic balloon, about 50 crore small microscopic balloon all over the lungs, and they are called alveoli. And these are the microscopic balloon which is filled with oxygen, filled with air, and here the gas exchange happens, and it goes, gas exchange means carbon dioxide comes to the air sac, small balloon, and the oxygen goes to the blood. That is the exchange of gas, it is called, and that is responsible for the gas exchange, and that is responsible for the transportation of oxygen, and that is responsible for your living and your breathing. So, but now those bacteria, they occupy those small balloons, and as a result, it is filled with the liquid, and that is what makes you having breathlessness problem. So, how to solve this problem? Very simple. Here you see this picture, and here this is how normally we lie down. And when you lie down like this, you see the part of the lungs where there are small dots. Those are what I call it small sac, the small microscopic balloon, the alveolus, what is called, and those are in 50 crore small balloon all over, and they are the one which traps the oxygen, and gas exchange happens here. But sometimes, because when you especially lie like this or any other posture, even when you stand, most of the time what happens, as you see in this posture specifically, the heart and the gravitational pressure of the heart and gravitational pressure of the abdomen, it lies on those that corner of the lungs, and as a result, the balloon, it squeezes in size. As it squeezes in size, about 20% of the lungs capacity is reduced. But when we are healthy, even after 20% reduction of lungs volume, it doesn't matter to us, because 80% is still available to us. But when we are sick, already lungs is compromised, at that, in this situation, that 20% is also important for us. So if we can take away the gravitational pressure of the lungs, of the heart, and gravitational pressure of the abdomen on the that part of the lungs, then we can utilize that extra 20% of the lungs. For that, we have to change the posture, and to change the posture, what is called as that changing the posture is called prone positioning, or it is named as prone ventilation. So in this posture, you see the small balloon, it became a bigger balloon. The small dot became bigger in size. And that is what is the increase in the capacity of the lungs by about 20%. And that is the distance between life and death. The person who was dying of breathlessness, by increasing the 20% capacity, now he will be living, he is able to get back the breath. So that is called prone ventilation, which is there in this world. This practice is there since 1970. But in last 1 decade, when the ventilator became very popular, then slowly these things were hidden. And this is not having even a single side effect. You see, when you compare the mechanical ventilator, there were 4 side effects I told you, and those are dangerous side effects. As a result of that, out of 10 patients who go for the ventilation, 9 die. Whereas in this case, the result is, I told you last time that in 15th of May, Journal of American Medical Association, and they have seen as many as 500 or so patients, they were put on a prone ventilation posture, COVID-19 patients, and no one died. All of them survived and all of them got cured. So on one side, mechanical ventilation, which is very expensive, which is very, very painful, and which causes most of the death. On other side, prone ventilation, which can be done at home and which is having no side effect, and where the cure rate is 100%, especially for COVID-19 patient, and all the evidences are there. Last time also I've shown you few evidences. So here you have to understand, to conclude, that when you put the patient on a prone ventilation, so here the abdomen pressure is less, the heart pressure is less, the alveoli size increases, and the breathing improves. And this we can expect within half an hour. But here the recommendation should be, in a day, 24 hours, the patient must be in this posture, prone posture, for at least 12 hours. Because the moment he gets up, again the breathing problem will start. So he has to lie like this for 12 hours to 16 hours. Maybe every 1 hour, he can take a break of 10 to 15 minutes, then again lie down for 1 hour, then he can take a break of 10 to 15 minutes or 5 minutes. In that break, he can move his body, he can be in any posture, and then come back to the prone ventilation. Sometimes the patient may say, how can I lie down like this for 16 hours or 20 hours or 24 hours one day? It is very, very difficult. It is very, very boring. Then you can tell the patient that if you don't do it, there is another option where you need not to do it, and that is mechanical ventilation, where forcefully some pipe will be thrown inside your body, and which is extremely painful, and too much of pain, and there the chances of that you will come out of the ventilation is very, very rare. And even if you come out, you will not be the same person again. Your brain is already gone, and for every small thing, you'll be dependent on somebody else. So when you compare, and there you have to spend 15 lakh, 20 lakh, 25 lakh rupees, and that may take many, many days. On the contrary, here only 1 day or maybe 2 days, and that too just lying down, and that too try to make the patient comfortable. How you can make the patient comfortable so that in shorter time he get more benefit, and that is by look at this slide, and you see the posture in the lowest slide, the lowest photo, where at the place where you have seen 29 and 28 written, here you can put the pillow. Because in India, many patients, they have a big tummy, a big belly. And when the big belly is there, and when they lie in a prone position, that belly may compress, it may press the lung. So the 20% advantage which we are thinking and to get through the prone position, prone positioning, prone ventilation, that may not happen. So for them, you have to adjust the pillow at this location as you have seen. How to know whether you have adjusted the pillow correctly? The only simple thing, important thing is, if the patient is comfortable, if the patient is saying, by putting the pillow at this position, as you can see, one pillow under the legs and one pillow under the abdomen. So they are finding themselves comfortable. That means that is the correct posture. So here the important thing is you have to make the patient comfortable, and accordingly you have to place the pillow, and you have to motivate the patient so that he will lie on this posture for many, many hours, to get a permanent advantage. So this is the how to manage the emergency breathing problems. So here you understand, try to understand in this world, even in the modern medicine, in hospital setup, there are two options: oxygen cylinder and mechanical ventilation. But I told you there is no evidence. There is no evidence to prove that these is beneficial for the humanity. However, on the contrary, the simple mechanism, that is, instead of oxygen, this fan, handheld fan, and instead of mechanical ventilation, the prone ventilation, there are plenty of evidences. Many of the evidences I've shown you last time also, this time also I've shown you, and those evidences clearly state that these are having no side effect, and it increases the chance of living, it reduces the chance of mortality. So clearly you know that now at the home the patient is more safe. Since at home setting the patient is more safe, so you should not ask the patient to go to hospital. In last 20 days, in one of the experts advised the patient that if you are not comfortable, go to the hospital. This you should not say even to your enemy, because if he goes to hospital, what he is going to get? He is going to get oxygen cylinder, he is going to get mechanical ventilator, or he is going to get some poison medicine. So that will not reduce his chances of living, of dying. It will increase the chances of dying. Now you know with evidence. So one side it is the glamour, which shows the big hospital, big medical team, big degrees, so lot of investment, lot of publicity. But that is not important. Important is whether it is having evidence that it has worked in the past. So if you compile all the evidence of the past, it comes to the conclusion that it kills the people. It do not do anything to protect the life of the people, whether it is oxygen cylinder, whether it is mechanical ventilator. So this is about managing the breathing. Now comes the next thing: uncontrolled cough. In case of uncontrolled cough, how to manage it? So if the patient complain of uncontrolled cough, so immediately along with the 3 days flu diet, you can start the therapy, and that is 3 times a day, small piece of turmeric, which already I told. Normally this turmeric we start on the 4th day when the patient is on a DIP diet. But if his cough is uncontrolled, then you say 3 times, 3 small pieces of turmeric before breakfast, before lunch, and before dinner. Actually, on the first 3 days, it is a liquid diet, but the timing I am saying, one early morning, one in the afternoon, one in the night. But if the cough is too much and cannot be controlled even with that in next 24 hours, then instead of 3 small pieces of turmeric, you can make it 6 small pieces of turmeric. So that is what is uncontrolled management of cough. It may take 2 days time or 3 days time, but within 3 days, the cough can be managed. And meanwhile, you can give support that you can remind the patient that, of course, you are sick. So these things are happening, but don't worry, it will go soon. So that is about the cough management. Now the most important is fever management, which I told you last time also, that till the time the temperature is 102 degree, need not to worry. But if the patient temperature touches 102 degree, then you have to go for cold compress plus cold air, as I told you last time also. And how much time? Either 15 minutes, or if before 15 minutes patient starts shivering, then stop it. Right? Even if the temperature is 102, 103, shivering, stop it. Then give a break of half an hour. Again, start the same therapy: cold compress plus cold air for 15 minutes. 15 minutes, or if he starts shivering, or if the temperature comes less than 102, in these conditions, any of the condition which comes first, you stop it. So this is the important thing. Sometimes the patient may ask if the temperature still cannot be managed, if it goes more than 103, 104, what to do? You cannot do anything, need not to worry. Sometimes the patient may say, they may panic, they may say, shall I take paracetamol? If the patient takes paracetamol, surely the temperature will come down, but it will not reduce the chances of seizure, which may happen in high temperature. So I say that paracetamol do not have any evidence that it can help a patient to live a longer life. It can help a patient to avoid the seizure if it is destined to happen. In spite of taking the paracetamol, still it will happen. However, it may happen very rarely. So what I mean to say, if you are not able to manage the temperature with cold compress and air, so that nothing you can do. Only thing you can do is that every half an hour you can repeat this till the time it comes lower, and if it doesn't come lower, then also need not to worry. because your broader body, your brain's homeostasis knows how much temperature to keep to switch off or to damage the virus. So sometimes high temperature may look like a illness, may look like a danger, but it is not a danger. It is the body's mechanism to get rid of the viruses. So it may not be bad every time, but here this safety mechanism you have to do, and you have to keep on repeating frequently, depending on how long the temperature remains 102 or more than that. So beside that, to manage the fever, there is nothing else in the world. Yes, the other thing is the fluid diet, which already is there, right? So in my last 12 years of managing the patient, influenza patient, I've never seen even a single patient who did not control the temperature with these strategies. Always the temperature will come under control no matter what. At least I have not seen any patient with whom I could not control the temperature with these two management. That is the diet plus this fever management. Now the next thing is vomiting. Many of you complain that many patients, they complain for vomiting, what to do. If the patient complain of vomiting, then you read this: stop eating and drinking for 4 hours. 4 hours, don't eat, don't drink. Only if you want, you can give only if there is a fever temperature, then you can give coconut water, and that too, if he do not vomit coconut water, then you can ask the patient to sip coconut water. Otherwise, don't give even the coconut water. Maybe a little water if the patient wants, and after 4 hours again try to give water or coconut water, and like that. So vomiting is not bad. Of course, vomiting may not be a very comfortable thing, but it is not bad. It means there is some germs inside the body, there is some infection, and the body want to throw it out. So let it come out. Need not to panic. Need to be calm. By vomiting, nobody can die. So you need not to worry about it. Only thing is that you have to comfort the patient, and the only way is that he should stop eating, drinking, and maybe he can try a little bit of coconut water. That too, especially when the temperature is also high. So that is about a little bit about vomiting. And then nausea and weakness. Many patients, they will panic. They will say, I'm feeling weak, I'm feeling nauseatic, I'm not able to move. Even two people will hold the patient to take him to toilet. And so there are many people, many patients, those who panic too much, right? So they have a very low tolerance. But you need not to worry, you need not to panic, you be cool, because by feeling weakness, by having nausea, again, nobody is going to die. There cannot be any permanent damage. So need not to worry. But yes, to give a comfort, you can say that you take a small piece of ginger, and chew it, and then throw the residue, throw the fiber out of it. And do it 3-4 times a day, and that will give some strength. Number one. Number two, if the patient is not ready to chew, you ask the patient to take it and make a paste out of it, and then put it in a water and boil the water, and in the hot water you add a lemon and some honey, raw honey, and ask the patient to sip it 3-4 times a day, and that will be also helpful in increasing his strength, in giving him energy, making him comfortable. Otherwise, need not to worry, because it is influenza, and if the patient had been already weak, so that is the patient who may complain more often, nausea and weakness, but it will go once the temperature subsides, once the patient recovers. So that is about all kind of questions which you have asked, which I covered in this presentation. But here there are some more questions which you have asked, and those questions I will take. Here, patient in these 3 days, while with your interaction, they may complain of high sugar, diabetes, high blood pressure, thyroid, piles, and other kind of lifestyle disease. But remember, for the patient, you are not a lifestyle doctor. You are only playing the role of a influenza expert. So here, you do not indulge in managing their other parameters. You can say they can manage as they were managing before, right? Because here the focus is totally core is to make them free of influenza, and that is your role. And we have to focus. And if they have any additional illness, then you ask them to contact us. You can give our number or our website or our email ID. Let them contact us and let us handle anything other than that. But during those 3 days to 14 days, your only target is let him be out of breathlessness, let him be out of flu, let him be out of the fever, and that is your job done. So that should be the goal, and very clear goal. So So your next question, sometimes the patient does not trust us and doubt our identity. Rather, they want directly treated by Dr. Vishnu or head office. You see, patient would want everything. Patient sometimes wants that we should go to their house and comfort them. Yeah, but that is not possible, we know. And we have to reach to lakhs and lakhs of people. And for that, we have to make a strategy so as to comfort as many people as possible. And that is possible when we have some rules and regulation. So here it is your responsibility to convince him. And since we have recommended your name, so I know most of the time and the patient will accept you. And there are many people who do not accept even when they see me. They can reject you, they can reject me. These things can keep on happening. But then we need to focus on those patients who accept us rather than those patients who doubts us. Because there are millions of patients around, and our goal is to first satisfy those patients, take out of the this fear and this flu on those patients who takes least amount of time, who get convinced easily. Then only we reach more number of people. So then there is loose motion. So some patients, they may complain of loose motion, but this is not bad. It's like vomiting, right? So since they are more on liquid, so they may have to go to loo many times, but need not to worry. It may be a discomfort, but there is nothing to worry. So that you have to tell. If the patient is complaining of malaria, so again we are treating the flu, and if it is malaria, then again ask them to contact us. And if the patient asks that can they take kadha along with the diet, so you can say they can take kadha, no problem in that. Tulsi, ashwagandha, adrak, munakka, these are all good things. The only thing is namak, that is salt. They should avoid salt. And then the question is, many people they say that the patient cannot purchase coconut water, or it is not available, or it is expensive. So if the patient is poor, then the alternative is, instead of coconut water, they can increase the citrus fruit juice quantity that they can do. And then the question is, what is the alternative of turmeric? If the patient do not get raw turmeric, then they have to buy turmeric powder. And in one lukewarm cup of water, 1 spoon of turmeric powder, one has to mix, and in sip they have to consume it. Here the question is, if the shivering at the temperature of 103, while doing the cold compress, if the patient shivers and the temperature is 103, what to do? Then stop doing cold press and wait for half an hour and see what is the temperature. If the temperature is not less than 102, then again you start the cold press plus that fan system. Some patient, one query was the patient, they had a severe burning sensation in the stomach, and some kind of palpitation in the heart. So these things are not related to influenza symptoms, first of all. So these do not come under your preview. But since the patient is at discomfort at the time, so most likely this happens when the patient is not following our diet 100%. In addition to that, they may consume tea, they may consume some dairy product, they may consume some grains, some oily things, and when they consume like this, and then the acidic food with this kind of diet, three-step food diet, the alkaline food, they interact with each other and causes a lot of acidity and also a lot of gastric. Then you have to ask the patient, did you take something else other than what we advised? And if the patient says yes, then you can say, then please don't take those things, and your this stomach problem will subside. And as far as the palpitation of the heart is concerned, uh, here this is beyond your preview. You can just refer to us, that they can email us. This does not come under the emergency of influenza patient. However, they can email us and let us handle them. So now the question is, if the mother is down with the flu and a fever or a corona or a COVID, and the lactating mother, so now what the child should do? So even the lactating mother can feed even the mother with the COVID-19 or influenza can feed the baby, and by getting fed by the mother, the child will not uh, uh, get affected with corona, or will not get affected with influenza. So here, even if the mother is sick, even then the mother can feed the child and can be with the child. You need not to worry about that. Now the next question is, if the hospital before we contact them. Now, if the patient, before we contact the patient, they take the patient to the hospital, and the hospital, they do not allow three-step diet. If the patient is already admitted in the hospital, then the case is closed, and then you will refer to us. You will tell us about the patient's status, and we'll go ahead. We'll close that case. And next question: if the relative get the patient admitted to the hospital without informing us, and we come to know later, then what to do? If the family member do not cooperate with you, and if they want to take them to hospital, let them go. Then also we'll assume the case is closed at the time. If the patient is cured with the corona symptom but still did not get the corona negative test certificate, then what we have to do? Most likely the patient will never get a corona negative certificate, because now in India, the next test is not mandatory, rather it is not advisable. So if the symptom is gone, assume the patient is cured, then you submit the final report and the case is solved. Sometimes the patient complain that they cannot follow this three-step diet. It is very difficult. If the patient do not cooperate, then you cannot help. So first of all, you try to convince a little bit, and you ask them to see the video which we already sent to all the patients. And even then they are not convinced, this means these patients you need not to worry, need not to handle, and we can go ahead. You can inform us, and we can go ahead. And then one patient query. Ekta Agarwal, you asked for a patient. Pawan Kumar has been suffering on and off for fever and body pain for past 1 month. He has done three-step diet but not getting recovered. If the patient is suffering from fever for past 1 month, then most likely it is not an influenza, it is something else. So this is also not in your preview. You will ask the patient to contact us directly through email, that is bishrup@bishrup.com, and let us handle the patient. And so that is also a closed case, since that is not an influenza case. Now the question is, if in 3-day diet, if the condition does not improve, after 3rd day the condition does not improve, then very simple, and the patient should be put on a DIP diet minus plate 2 in lunch plus 3 times a day, and the small turmeric piece the patient need to chew for next 14 days. So that is already a part of protocol which I taught you the last time. And so if the patient has a headache, you have to tell the patient to rest. If the patient want to take a bath, yes, patient can take a bath or must take a bath, but with a normal water temperature, not a very cold or not a very hot water. So if the patient lose a sense of taste and smell, normally the patient do not lose a sense of taste and smell. If the patient, while in fever, they take the paracetamol or any antibiotic drugs, then there is a possibility they may lose the sense of taste or sense of smell. Otherwise, most likely the patient will not lose the sense of smell and taste. So you may ask the patient whether they have taken some medication, and if at all they have taken medication, you can ask the patient to discontinue the medication. Then the sense of taste and smell will come back. And some patients are in contact in the starting few days, and then later they start avoiding the call. If you feel the patient start avoiding the call, that may happen with about 10% of the patient, because some patients they don't believe on being on these kind of liquid diet, and they think that this will make them more sick, and that then they avoid the calls. If it happens, then you assume the case is solved and you report to us. And if the patient asks that instead of tomato or cucumber, can we take any other vegetable like carrot, etc., or can we take along with this carrot, etc., you see, among all the vegetable, tomato and cucumber is having a special kind of fluid inside it, and that fluid plays an important role in curing in the first 3 days. But if you want to add something else, any other vegetable in raw form, he can go ahead with that. So that's no problem. But the best thing to take is take only tomato and cucumber. That is something which you must know. Here, most of the time, after 2 days, patient take paracetamol, and because they have a fear that the temperature may go too high. You see, the patient had been educated like that, and patient had been seeing them that in last several years, most of the time when they are down with influenza or fever, they most likely they take the paracetamol. But paracetamol, what will happen? They will make the process of sickness longer. Instead of getting cured in 3 days, now because of taking medication, they will take about 7 days, 10 days, 15 days to recover. So the recovery time increases when you are on medication. But if you follow exactly the 3-step flu diet, it takes for most of the people only 3 days, that is just 72 hours. In 72 hours, you are free of the illness. In 72 hours, all the symptoms gone and you are back to energy, the same energy which you were having before. Some patient says that I cannot take uh, citrus fruits because I have some tonsil kind of thing. As you see, there is no connection with tonsil and citrus fruit. Citrus fruits is not bad for tonsil. That I can tell you. In the same way as mango is good for diabetes patient, in the same way as coconut water is good for kidney patient, so for tonsil, the citrus fruit juice is good, not bad. So in one case, the patient temperature was 95, 96 degrees. Is it normal? It is not normal. It is below normal. But you have to ask the patient if he is he comfortable. If he is comfortable, if he is energetic, then ignore the number and let it go. And then the next is one of my patient has X-ray and the report shows bacterial infection in lungs. He is taking antibiotic. You see, the 3-step diet and the DIP diet both are antibiotic also. If at all there is some bacteria or some enemy bacteria any part of the body, then it is just time to die with the DIP diet. So I always say to all my patients that don't take antibiotic. Instead of that, you take this diet, and when you are on this diet, automatically the biotic, that is the bacteria, will get killed, and you need not to worry, because antibiotic is having their own side effect, and that we can discuss sometime else. So this finishes or most of the question or all the questions which you might have faced in the last 20 days, and most of the question which you've written, and this completes the advanced training on how to handle the COVID-19 or how to handle the influenza or flu patients. Now, the one very interesting part, that is hospital in a box. Hospital in a box, that is something like this. This is a hospital in a box. This is something for you, your family members. Means that how to give yourself comfort during the sick time. So that you can do, that you can achieve with the hospital in box. In last 2 years, me and my medical team together, we have collected a list of 28 ingredients, 28 herbs. And by the permutation and combination of those 28 herbs, you can create almost all kind of medicine you need for comforting yourself during the time of illness. So the list of those 28 herbs are there in the screen, as you can see. These are the 28 herbs, and you can see the names. These are very simple herbs, and you can find these herbs at any places, and they are not expensive. They are quite reasonable also. So these are 28 herbs, and their English name, their Indian name, their scientific name, which part of the leaf and in which form is given in this list. So in this hospital in box, those 28 ingredients will be there, which will be given to you, sent to you through courier. Here, the important thing you have to understand that that this box with those 28 things, you can create almost all kind of medicine for these symptoms, for cough, for cold, even for respiratory congestion, for constipation, for fever, for headache, for indigestion, for nausea, for joint pain, for all kind of all possible kind of discomfort which one may face in his lifetime. You can create your own medicine from the permutation combination of these herbs. And these are locally local herbs which you can find even in your city. But we'll collect it for you, and we are making a box to send to you. But as you know, during the lockdown, what happened, that most of the shops which sells purest form of these herbs, they had not yet opened properly. So we are negotiating with them so that we quickly get it, and once we get it, we'll courier you. But also, this is the third semester, there's the third month of your training. Your training is about to get finished within few days. And to finish it, the final thing is that we'll take your written test, and you have to submit one case study of at least one patient. One patient's case study. That patient can be any of the patient which you have treated in these days, number one. Number two, it can be yourself because you also experienced flu diet also, you experienced the DIP diet, or it can be any other patient, your family member also, whom you have treated through this diet in last 3 months. So you have to submit the case study of one patient. Will send you a format, in the format which you have to submit the patient's case study. Along with that, you have to appear for a final exam, and I'm sure that you all will pass with flying colors. And then from Malaysia, Lincoln University will request your certificates, and once the certificate comes, along with the certificate and this hospital in box, will send the courier together. So so that is one part till now, and the part to support how to support the sick patient. Here, the ingredient of the hospital in box, which you can see on the screen, in this complete slide, everything will be there in the box, and these links I'll send you, and all the ingredient, how it scientifically works. Every explanation will also be sent to you. So through the links, and this these herbs, it will give the comfort to you and your patient. Of course, these strategy we are not going to use in the NICE, that is Network of Emergency of Influenza Care Expert, because here the patient is at a distance, right? We are not near the patient, and we do not expect the patient will find those herbs and make some concoction out of it. So we need not to suggest these herbs to the patients according to their symptom. Here we have to limit to only those protocol which I have shared to you, which I asked you to share with the patients. So here you have to remember, for the patient when you serve the patients, they will get some physical discomfort, and many patients, they may have mental discomfort. So it is our responsibility as a practitioner will support them for to reduce their physical pain by giving all those kind of suggestion which I told you. That is either the use of turmeric, or use of ginger, or the prone positioning, or the air ventilation. All those things will, or the cold compress. Those sessions will give according to his difficulties. But sometimes the patient need a support mentally also. Sometimes the patient is mentally weak and broke down. So many people, when they are physically weak, they get mentally also disturbed and distorted, disheartened. So at that time, they need some mental support. To give the patient the mental support, those who come to us through NICE. So here we have with us Dr. Hema Gupta. She's a PhD in psychology, and she's a psychologist. So while interacting with the patients, the NICE patients, and the influenza patients, if you think that the patient needs some psychological support also, then you will write to us that this patient, I think, needs some psychological support, and also you may brief why you think so. And then we will connect the patient with Dr. Hema Gupta, and she will help the patient mentally also. And we have to support the patient mentally. We have to support the patient's symptoms, reduce the patient's symptom, and this process minimum may take about 3 days, maximum it takes about 14 days. And our goal is to help them to come back to life physically, mentally, emotionally, and come out of the scare of the flu and the corona also. And now you yourself have treated many patients. So in total, we have treated about 5,000 patients: corona patient, influenza patient, flu patient. Now you know the disease which was told that it is going to kill millions of patients. Actually, it is a very small illness and can be cured in as much as only 3 days, that is 72 hours. So here, I want you to take one more responsibility from today, and that responsibility is, as you know, that now we are operational 24 hours. This helpline, the NICE helpline, NICE helpline, is 24-hour functional. This means the patient, if they call in the middle of the night at 2 a.m., even then our office is on. Our first line officer takes the call. And sometimes they may not wait till the morning to get their expert. So I want some of you or all of you to take the responsibility of night shift, night duty also. Night duty means that from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. You are available once a month only. So I want you to dedicate only one night in the whole month, at least one night in the whole month, where you can be available as a night duty practitioner for that particular day. So in that particular for that particular night, if some patient's condition is not very good. And the first line officer, those who are taking the call, they think that the patient must be immediately connected with the expert for an initial briefing. Then the first line officer, they will, those who are receiving the call from the patient, they will forward the patient's number and detail to you, and you can take the you can connect with the call, and at that time only, and you have to ask only two questions. How is your temperature? Please tell me the temperature, and how is your breathing? If you say breathing is comfortable, you not to worry. If you say temperature is less than 101 or something, you not to worry. Then you can say everything is safe. So just you sleep. In the morning, a nice team will allocate one nice expert to you, and that expert will take care and guide you until the time you are free from this influenza or free from the fever. But however, if the patient says the temperature is 102 and more than 102, then you say, okay, come in the video conferencing, and you show through the temperatures thermometer that it is 102. And if you see it is 102, then of course you can share that managing the temperature through that cold compress and through the fanning method. Sometimes the fan may not be there, then the cold compress is the only thing which you can share. And so that way the patient will get some relief immediately. For 99% of the patient, just you are talking to the patient will give all the relief. But for one patient, they may need a real help, and you have all the tools. If the temperature is not in control, then you have the tool. If he's saying some breathing difficulty, then you have the tool. Or if it is extreme breathing difficulty and he's not having oximeter, then you can say, okay, come to the screen, and through looking at the video, you can see and judge that whether it is too much of breathing or not. So if you think it is abnormally high, then you can simply say, okay, you lie in a prone positioning. Now the patient will not know what is prone positioning. For that, I will send you some photos. You just click and send the photo that you have to lie in this posture. And once you lie in this posture, hopefully within a half an hour, your breathing will be better. So after half an hour, you can ask, how is your breathing? And then you can tell, okay, now you lie in this posture till the morning. So at least your breathing could be managed, and in the morning, our expert will come and contact you. So I want that each one of you dedicate one day in a month, at least one day in a month, as a night duty officer. I can tell you with my experience that every time you deal with a patient, it is a new story. You will learn something new, which you can learn only when you are in touch with the patient. It cannot be learned through books. It cannot be learned through lectures. It can be learned only when you experience at the very first place, right? So that's why it is called practicing doctor. Doctor keeps on practicing till the end of his life. It is never called practicing engineer. Engineer first become perfect and then they implement the knowledge. But doctors never become perfect. They keep on practicing throughout the life. That's why it's called practicing doctor. More you practice, more you are towards the perfection. So, so I want to encourage you so that you nominate yourself to be a night duty officer at least one night in 30 days. So if you are ready, then you can go bishrup.com/night duty, and then you click, and the form, the kind of form which you can see on the screen, that kind of form will come. And here you can write your name and phone number and number of nights per month you are interested to dedicate to be a volunteer for this, and is there any preferable day when you want to be a night duty officer for that particular day. So your preference you can write, and then it will come to us, and whenever we think that we need your help, we'll give you a prior intimation that tonight we want you to work as a night duty officer. This means for that night your number will be given to all our telecallers, all our first line officers, and to their discretion, if they think that some patient needs your support in the middle of the night, they will pass on the number to you, and only when they pass on the number to you, your responsibility is just to give them only one call and try to see what is the situation, how serious is the condition, accordingly give a little bit of guidance, and then you can say the patient to rest, and in the morning some expert will be allotted to them, and your responsibility for that night it stops. And now, finally, sometime you may not be able to handle a patient because it may come out to be some situation which is out of what we have learned. In that case, you have a 24-hour emergency helpline number, and that helpline is only for you during the emergency situation when it is not even in your control. And that is a 24-hour helpline, emergency helpline for the expert. So that number is already given to you. If you did not get, then I will share with you once again, and through that number you can contact us and tell the scenario of the patient, and there stops your responsibility and there starts my job. So, but you should not ask the patient to go to the hospital. That's what we know. Going to the hospital is saying that, okay, go and get yourself killed by the hospital, and not just of health but also of your wealth, or they will take the money and they will take the life also. So why to do it, right? So rather you give it the patient to us. Here, one important thing I want to share with you, that most of you are working somewhere, and it may not be feasible that you may be able to pick up the phone every time the patient calls you. So if you know there are certain time of the day where absolutely you will not be able to pick up the call of your patient, then in the first instance, only when you're contacting the patient for the first time, you can tell your limitation that during this period, for example, during 9 to 12 or 9 to 1, I am extremely busy, or during 1 and 2 when I have lunch time, I am free. So at that time you can interact, and in the middle, if you have something to talk about, they can talk through WhatsApp to you, they can connect through WhatsApp. So that kind of understanding you must have to have with the patient. So that kind of support you have to give to the patient. So that support will be really appreciated. And always what I do is I put myself in the patient's shoe and think that if I had been the patient, and then what kind of support I would expect from a doctor, from a practitioner. So that is very, very important, and I'm sure that you are going to give your best. And while giving your best, a lot of questions will keep on coming. And I can tell you the number of questions which were there at the time when you joined this medical nutrition course, at the end, now the number of questions must be much more than what it was in the beginning. So more you go into deep, you will know that there are more things to know. And that is true for you, and that is true for me. So someday we are going to meet in person. And with this, I conclude this session and hope to see you. All the best. Thank you. Dhanyavad.